following the unanimous recommendation of the Council of the School of Sciences, the decision of the University Senate, and ratification by the University Council, whereas Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee has significantly contributed to computer science through acclaimed international scientific activity, the School of Sciences, the University Senate, and the University Council unanimously decided to award him the highest honor they may confer. To award him the title of Honorary Doctor of the Computer Science and Director, to serve him there is a resolution on the date of inauguration in the city of Nicosia, Cyprus, on the 6th day of May 2019. I invite Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee to proceed for his nomination. The academic progression, please. The acting. I would like to invite Dr. Christoforos Hadjikiprianou, President of the Council of European University Cyprus, to congratulate the Honorary Doctor Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee. Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee, the Honorary Doctor of the School of Sciences, is invited to address us.
President Rector, distinguished guests, wow, what an honour to be here in Cyprus to give this degree. It's been quite an amazing 30 years. It's good to celebrate things when they're successful. After all, we've all had projects which are successful and successful. I've had both. This was one which was remarkably successful. So I'm to a certain extent very, very lucky. Yes, now we find that there are two sides to this thing. There's for many people out there in the street, and you talk to them about the web. There are things to celebrate and things to be concerned about. And so let me briefly go over a little bit of the past, the present, and the possible future. The past, because we've been talking about the past, and it's worth looking some of the pieces which were, for me were crucial in the space, but also the things which motivated people and drove people. I was, in a way, I'm very lucky I grew up in London as a second generation programmer, if you like. My parents were the first people to work with computers. They were part of the team which took Ferranti University Mark I computer, and took the Manchester University Mark I computer and turned it into the Ferranti Limited Mark I. So it was a commercial product. Some people have called my mother the first commercial programmer, because she went to program a customs machine one occasion with me in her belly. So that was the timing. I was born in 1955, and in a way that was perhaps a very special. I feel I'm lucky just to have been as a geek to be have been born at that time, because I was born into two parents who were surrounded by the very early computing. If you've seen the film The Imitation Game, then you'll understand Alan Turing had realized that all computers are effectively equivalent. And so that meant for these people working, it doesn't matter whether you have an IBM computer, an ICL computer, an email computer, it doesn't matter whether, because each computer could be programmed to pretend to be the other one. And so if anything you can do on your computer, I can do on my computer. Therefore, because the computers are all equivalent, what we do with them is limited only by our imagination. And in the early days, they imagined doing all kinds of things. They imagined that they would translate very quickly between Russian and English and back again. They thought they would. Some things they found computers could do quite easily and very fast, and some things they found computers could do, it was really hard, and some things they still are hard. So those were exciting days. I was lucky in that generation to grow up with when I was at elementary school, we played with electromagnets. When I was in secondary school, we played with transistors. As I got to university, the transistors you could buy as a kid in the store turned into integrated circuits, and then just as I coming to undergraduate university, bing, you can buy a microprocessor, you can buy the chip, one integrated circuit which has actually got a whole computer, the core of the central processor on a chip. So I was experimenting all these levels, and the microprocessor arrived just at the point where I wanted to build a computer. I did, partly because partly because I could. Also, a little side issue was that I'd been thrown off one of the computers at Oxford for using it inappropriately. We had a non-profit, and I used the computer printer. So I got denied access to the DEC System 10 at the Nuclear Physics Department in Oxford. So, to a certain extent, the urge to realize I need to have my own computer was a greater push. And so I was lucky, because at that point I could. And so then, instead of going on to do a PhD, even though I recommend that you probably should, but I found then the industry was really interesting, because at that point these microprocessors, these little 2-inch long computers, were being used to replace huge amounts of electronics. And so so in the early days then of the microprocessors, you would have a rack of equipment, and you replace the whole thing. You put a microprocessor in the middle and connect it to all the inputs and all the outputs, and the microprocessor would just run a program which simulated all of the logic. So that was a huge change in the electronics industry, and I figured that out because I built my own computer with a microprocessor, so I could go. So for a while I worked as a consultant, and then I worked in 1980. I went as a consultant to CERN, helped them with this again largely taking what the processing control system, the processing control booster control system, was the thing that we brought in to help with. It was a 6-month project, June to December of 1980, and we had to program computers where they were replacing really beautiful electronics. So the old computers, the old one was all lots and lots of little individual pieces of electronics and glowing vacuum tubes and little oscilloscope screens, all different. The computer control system was all lots of screens, all the same. They could all do different things, but using different software, but they all run the same hardware. So a big change, and I rode because of that. I went to CERN to help with that. I went back to the UK, and then later came back to CERN, having just realised that it existed. I thought it was a pretty neat place. People from all over the planet coming together to tackle these really difficult problems. I'd done 3 years of physics at Oxford, but that does not make you a physicist. You need about 12 years of physics to really call yourself a particle physicist. So I went to CERN as an electronic engineer to build stuff, and I built things. I helped them build things. They did not ask me to build the web. That's true. They asked me to do all kinds of things, but they let me build the web on the side. Yes, very but exciting with the phrase that they found after my boss, unfortunately, Mike Sendler, he let me do the web as a side project. And he died, he got cancer, but about the same time, unfortunately. He lived for 10 years. When his wife went through his things, she found his copy of the memo, and in it, only 10 years later, we discovered that he'd written in pencil on it, very, very exciting. And so now these now famous words, thank goodness it wasn't exciting in a way. So from then on, the rest is much better documented. Yes, the Web Consortium starting as MIT and other, and 3 other host sites to be international. In '94, in '06, web science, which was one of these things which George has been involved with. But this idea that increasingly, it's not just about building faster HTTP requests. It's about thinking about the whole idea of web science. It's about a science of the web, like cognitive science is a science of the brain. Cognitive science came together from many disciplines to thinking we need to understand the brain and we need to bring together everything we can. At the time, we thought that was well. Rotary Leaf was the original executive director of the Web Science Institute and then Trust. And she with me co-founded the Web Foundation. The Web Foundation also very much at that point 20% of people in the world were using the web, and we felt that was quite a responsibility partly to get the other 80% on board, and partly to make sure that for the 20% who were on board, who was aware that we were the sort of web that we wanted. And early on, to have to bring you back. So for the students, the faculty here may remember the blogosphere, but for students who may be too young to have really lived through it. There was a time when people had computers at home and they plugged them into the internet. They plugged them into a modem, and then eventually they'd get a permanent line. And when so they could have a web server on their own computer at home, and you could download software onto it. You could download blog software onto it, and you could write a blog. And when you write a blog, you write it on your computer, and you make links to other blogs, and other blogs will make links to you, and you were part of this mesh of people creating content on the web. And the way that worked is that you try to make a very good blog. You try to make it a good blog because you wanted other people to link to it. And when other people linked to it, if they thought yours was worth linking to, just as you carefully linked only the blogs which you felt were really worth sending all your readers to, that if more people made links to your blog and said nice things about your blog in their blog, they would make all links to get more traffic to it. And then every time you get up in the morning, you look at a counter on the bottom. Nowadays, blogs have a counter on the bottom, which counted how many people have read it. And people live to see that counter roll over. You get up in the morning and find 100 people have read the blog since yesterday. Wow! And so that motivation of just being read made the blogosphere was a wonderful virtuous circle. And in a way, you could be forgiven back then for feeling that the blogosphere was a natural product of humanity connected by technology. When you think about John Perry Barlow having written his manifesto for cyberspace, in which he said, when we connect using technology, then we will just live and do good things and be democratic, and we won't need nations. John Perry Barlow and John Lennon, in a way, they looked at the internet, and people looked at the internet and thought, yeah, there's no countries on the internet. This is it. We've arrived. And with the blogosphere, to a certain extent, we arrived. It was great to be able to read all these wonderful blogs, but also more to be part of this process of making them. And so, what could go wrong? Well, now here we are, 2019. Not everybody has a website, so lots of things. After a while, various things changed. In fact, there are a number of things changed. It's not just one thing, but we can go over some of them. For one thing, there was a change to a certain extent from people who felt the very, very recent logical change. If I work hard to make people read my blog, then it's reasonable for me to turn on advertising. So Google advertising came along, so I could just put some code on my webpage and bing, then I get money. What's wrong with that? And the motivation, of course, still works. I still want to write a good blog because I've got then the ads will be, I'll get more readership and then I will get more money because when I'm refunded every time somebody looks at my ad, then that's the motivation of somebody refunded, motivated that way is the same. But then, of course, the ad system gets more sophisticated and says, well, give you money. Well, we won't give you money so much if people read it. We will give you money if somebody clicks through and buys something. So in other words, now suddenly the motivation of the writer has changed from actually writing good stuff, which will keep the person, to writing stuff that will distract the user into doing something else. So suddenly the world becomes somewhere where instead of using, when your kids are doing their homework, they're actually the website is trying to get them to buy things. They're trying to, the website is trying to get them to persuade you to buy a particular car or something. And so in fact, that motivation, when you get motivated somebody for distracting the person into doing something that they didn't want to do,